It is really incredible how many incredibly terrible WCW gimmicks there were for such a short existence, really, when you think about it, from the late 80s to 2001. I feel like in this video I've managed to bring together 10 of the absolute dirt worst gimmicks they ever come up with. So let's start at number 1, and that's the Renegade. Throughout their history, WCW had little regard for copyright infringement. Take Arachnaman, who we covered in the last video, for example, and then the likes of the Big Boss Man's time in WCW as Big Bubba, and the inexcusable line from commentary, "He's a big boss, man." But perhaps the Renegade is the ultimate rip-off WCW ever created. This was the ultimate surprise as Hulk Hogan teased in 1995, and fans braced themselves for the WCW debut of Hogan's WWE rival, the Ultimate Warrior, but it wasn't to be, at least not for another couple of years anyway. It wouldn't have been a surprise to see the Ultimate Warrior land in WCW, as Eric Bischoff had opened Ted Turner's checkbook and had already signed lots of former WWE superstars. Instead, fans got former male stripper, the Renegade. It was the ultimate swerve, you might say, as at Uncensored 1995, Hogan introduced an ally to face off against Vader and Ric Flair. The opening chords to his music was even the same as the Ultimate Warrior's. As that familiar sound played, fans roused themselves in the arena for the return of wrestling's most intense superstar. I mean, you can actually see the fans rousing themselves on the footage. They are so excited to see the Ultimate Warrior again. A man with wild hair ran down to the ring to save Hogan, but it soon became clear that the Ultimate Warrior was definitely not back. Renegade would go on to have a surprisingly remarkable career, actually, as he would face Paul Orndorff, Diamond Dallas Page and stunning Steve Austin, and even managed to lift the television championship. As WCW started to sink in the face of WWE's Attitude Era, desperate times meant desperate measures, as WCW signed former WWE writers in Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara at the end of 1999 in order to try and reverse their fortunes. If anything, they accelerated WCW's decline by making decisions like introducing the character of Oklahoma to their TV shows. Instead of focusing on saving WCW, Russo and Ferrara were more interested in taking pot shots at their former employers in WWE, and in the case of Russo, he couldn't help but plaster his annoying face all over WCW and even won their World Heavyweight Championship. Ferrara, on the other hand, mostly remained backstage until the dickhead idea of Oklahoma came about. Ferrara donned a cowboy hat and sat on commentary mocking Jim Ross, who was the voice of WWE at the time, and imitating his southern accent and making fun of his Bell's palsy condition that paralysed his face. £300 Ferrara as Oklahoma even won the WCW Cruiserweight Championship and had barbecue sauce sprayed in his face. In less than a year and a half, WCW would be dead. Months before the signings of Ed Ferrara and Vince Russo, WCW President Eric Bischoff had realised by early 1999 that the wheels were starting to fall off his product. Bischoff had access to Ted Turner's almost endless checkbook, and in an attempt to win fans back, he used it to sign up none other than rock band Kiss. Well, it was actually just a single appearance of Kiss on one WCW Nitro, which cost him $500,000 rather than any kind of long-term contract with the band. But still, this had to be a masterstroke, right? Everyone still loved Kiss in 1999, right? There were other points in the partnership too, like merchandising and even a Kiss-based wrestler. This was to be the Kiss Demon. The Kiss Demon mimicked the makeup of Kiss lead singer Gene Simmons. Initially, it was Bryan Adams under the makeup, however, after one appearance, he saw the stupidity of the gimmick and told Bischoff to shove it, so it fell to Dale Torborg to fill the role instead. The gimmick bombed before it even started, as the live musical appearance of Kiss on Nitro fell flat. Ratings went through the floor for the appearance. Well done, Bischoff. The Demon feuded with Vampiro for a bit, and then Bischoff left WCW in September of 1999. Everyone saw sense and quickly ended the Kiss experiment. 2 for the price of 1 here. It's the Ding Dongs. Ding and Dong, I assume. Don't ask me to tell the difference between these two lads. Jim Ross had a similar problem back at the Clash of the Champions 7 in 1989, undecided between calling them Ding and Dong, Ding Dong 1 and Ding Dong 2, or the Ding Dong and the other Ding Dong. The thought put into this gimmick clearly didn't stretch as far as giving them individual names. In 1987, Greg Evans tag teamed with Richard Sartain in Deep South Wrestling to form the Rock and Roll Rebels, a derivative of the other rock and roll tag teams of the time, and the pair got on very well and gelled nicely together as a tandem, and it looked like they might be future prospects. They would both begin to make appearances for World Championship Wrestling at the start of 1989, just in time for incoming WCW Executive Vice President Jim Herd to utilise them. Herd wanted to copy WWE's success at promoting towards kids and wanted a cast of characters that aligned with that vision, including a brand new tag team. He'd seen the Bushwhackers in WWE to great success and he wanted a piece of that too. It must have been a relief for both Evans and Sartain that they were dressed head to toe in lycra bodysuits, including their faces being covered, as that way nobody could see who they were and none of the fans of WCW could lynch them after the show, because the fans absolutely hated this from the moment that they saw it. You see, not only was it a terrible gimmick, it was also annoying. The Ding Dongs had bells on their bodysuits and were accompanied to the ring by Oompa style music, and whichever Ding Dong wasn't tagged in spent his time annoyingly ringing a bell on the ring apron. The reason why was never explained. The fans quite rightly rejected the gimmick immediately, and you can hear their fury. Luckily, Jim Herd saw sense, and it wouldn't be long before the Ding Dongs had dinged out of WCW forever. Back to WCW ripping off other people now. It's 1998 and Payne Stewart was one of the world's top golfers with a penchant for dressing like an idiot and having an excellent golf swing. So WCW decided to mock the golf superstar by dressing Barry Darsow up just like him and giving him the name Stuart Payne. Darsow had been on the sharp end of terrible gimmicks for years, including his most well-known role as the Repo Man during WWE's New Generation. Unfortunately, this was just another gimmick that was well over par. Ed Leslie is a man known by many names, including, ironically, the man with no name, the man with no face, the Disciple, Ed Boulder, the Zodiac, Eddie Hogan, Hulk Hogan's bag carrier. You probably know him best from his 80s WWE run as Brutus the Barber Beefcake. As Hogan's main lackey and general arse kisser, he followed Hogan from WWE to WCW, where he failed to settle into any particular gimmick, initially going from the Barber to the Clipmaster, and from Brutus Beefcake to Brother Brutai. He tried any old shit to get over, and at one point he settled on the Bootyman. Leslie would shake his arse in the camera and would use the high knee as a finisher. Get it? High knee? And that was basically the gimmick. If Ed Leslie's any part of an arse, it's definitely the hole. John Tenta found fame in WWE during the early 90s as Earthquake. A big man heel, he eventually made his way to WCW as part of Kevin Sullivan's Three Faces of Fear and rebranded as Avalanche. WWE didn't like this gimmick infringement and threatened legal action, so WCW changed Tenta into a big fat shark instead. Tenta looked absolutely ridiculous as the shark. He had shark teeth painted on his cheeks and he kept holding his hand up to his head to look like a shark's fin during matches. Eventually Tenta would get fed up with all of the dumb gimmicks he'd been lumbered with, cutting a promo saying, "I'm not the shark, I'm not a fish, I'm not an avalanche, I'm a man." Good for you, big man. Good for you. For a time, Mike Awesome was the man in ECW. Between mid-1999 and the year 2000, Awesome dominated the main event scene in ECW and held the world title. Awesome made a name for himself in matches against Japanese nutcase Masato Tanaka, in brutal contests, and everyone assumed that the future was bright for the so-called gladiator. WCW, on the other hand, had different ideas. As Paul Heyman's checks started to bounce at the end of ECW, Awesome decided to jump ship to WCW in the year 2000, which coincided with Vince Russo and his big ideas arriving in the promotion. Russo wanted big characters with gimmicks, which was fair enough. The only problem was the gimmicks he produced were utterly terrible. The hugely talented Awesome was lumbered with the gimmick of Fat Chick Thriller, I don't have to explain what that involved, and like it couldn't get any worse, he then became that 70s guy. Awesome would never truly recover from this period in his career. His later work in WWE was uninspired and he was basically a jobber. It's the opposite of Awesome, that nobody could truly see how much natural talent changed things up a little bit for him. In 1993, the musical artist Prince changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol during a contract dispute with Warner Brothers Music, and was often referred to as the artist formerly known as Prince by both fans and the media. And so Vince Russo decided that Prince Iakea, the wrestler, would turn heel and now go by the name of the artist formerly known as Prince Iakea, and later simply as the artist. Iakea was made to dress in purple just like the musical artist Prince and copied his mannerisms. He was given Charmel, Booker T's wife, as his manager, and she was renamed Paisley in reference to the Paisley Park recording studio used by the real Prince. All of that effort to rebrand him, and nobody cared. By 1999, Dustin Rhodes had gained a reputation for standing out from the crowd and for being able to get the almost impossible over with the fans after his success with the edgy and androgynous Goldust character in WWE. But even Dustin didn't stand a chance with Seven. It might just be wrestling's most embarrassing gimmick ever. Unsettling vignettes aired week in and week out on WCW TV, featuring a child sleeping in his bedroom. A whispered voice spoke, saying, "Awake, my son, what's under your bed?" Then a man stood in front of the child, dressed all in black with a white painted face, before beckoning the child towards him, and then the child's eyes went black. It was really weird. The vignettes carried on until November the 8th, 1999, when Seven actually debuted in the flesh on an episode of Nitro. Creepy music played and Seven literally levitated to the ring with smoke and fire behind him. In a classic late WCW swerve, he got on the microphone and said, "Cut the music and take a look at this crap that I'm wearing." Vince Russo had just arrived on the scene and he inherited the character that was originally designed by Dustin's dad, Dusty Rhodes. Even Russo saw how crap this gimmick was. Although in an interview, Russo did say that it was actually standards and practices at the TV station that decided they didn't like this gimmick. I'm not surprised, to be honest with you. It was weird. In his promo, Seven went on to say, "For those of you who don't know, I was Goldust and Goldust sucked." Safe to say that by December 2001, Rhodes would be back in WWE, performing as Goldust once again.